Martha, thank you so much for joining us on today's Value Bite. We are very excited to chat with you. And today we're going to talk about values, what matters most to business owners. And so we're looking forward to you sharing your insight. But before we dive in, tell us just a little bit about you, your business, and how ultimately you help business owners.
Absolutely. Heather, Randy, thank you so much. I'm really looking forward to our conversation today. I'm Martha Sullivan. I'm a consultant with the Family Business Consulting Group. And as a part of my work with family businesses and business owners, I don't work exclusively with family businesses. I work with privately held ones as well. But what we focus on really is helping the business enterprise and its owners drive value that is consistent with their goals in life, really. I do a lot of work helping owners get aligned in terms of what does that mean when there are multiple owners. In family businesses, we do a lot of work talking about how to get the family aligned and how do you navigate conflict when there's those family food fights that pop up here and there along the way. And I have a fairly robust exit planning practice as well. So it all kind of comes together nicely in terms of the focus work that we do with our clients.
That's awesome. So I'm sure, in the process of working with those owners, especially working with, privately held and family owned businesses, you probably spend a lot of time talking to them about what matters most to them in their business. I know when we go through our process, our vision value model, we really dive into those values, not just the value of the business, but what people actually value about their business.
Yes.
And so we find that those are typically some kind of an emotional attachment to their people, or maybe the impact that they can make by giving back to the community, the processes, the way that they go about doing business, or even just what they can do with the profits, right? What's that paycheck going to mean to them and to their family? And so I'd love to just know more about, how do you talk business owners through what they value about their business and kind of open the lines for those communications? What does that look like in practice with your business?
I love this question, Heather. Thank you. One of the things that we often refer to in working with family businesses, but I also like to think of every privately held business owner is really, they have a family business because how the business works impacts their family and ultimately the direction that they can go with their family. But in the family business, one of the core concepts is that you're always wearing a minimum of potentially 3 or 4 hats. You've got the sphere of your family, which is what's nearest and dearest to most of us. You've got the sphere of ownership, and then you have the sphere of leading and managing that particular operating company. And that 3-circle model, you build that Venn diagram, and you can see very quickly where those roles overlap. And if you add a 4th circle to that Venn diagram, you add the individual to it. That's really where the values start. It's also where the difference in values becomes the source of conflict and disagreement, because you have different values or different priorities at a given time. So when we recognize that each one of those circles has their own systems, their own norms, their own values and vision for what that is, then it opens up the opportunity to talk about exactly what you asked. What's really most valuable in their heart and in their head, not just financially, about the business that they're leveraging to make the most of. And so very often we start with the individual, or we start with the family, because the business, it's just an asset. If you get really clinical, it's just an asset that is providing a mechanism for you to achieve your vision and your goals and live out your values. So how do you tap into that? And we have processes, and we facilitate conversations around that, to draw that out and make sure people have a better opportunity to be aligned and move forward.
That's incredible. And that sentiment of really aligning with the vision and the values. I mean, you're speaking our language, Martha. That's exactly the same type of methodology that we use in our framework when we're doing marketing strategies. And it just goes to show that no matter what part of the business that you're touching, if you're not addressing the vision and the values in the emotional side of things, then you're not really tapping into the full potential of the strategies and processes that you can put in place, whatever the outcome or the objective is. And so my question is, in your experience, how can owners really tap into these emotional attachments and the values within their business to ultimately increase the financial value and make their business better? How can they tap into the emotional attachments and values?
That is that's $1 million question, isn't it there, Andy?
Perfect. You have 2 minutes. Go. No, I'm just
2
kidding.
minutes, go. Yeah, there you go.
Solve the woes.
You know, um, I'll share a story, and maybe that's the best way of illustrating how we do it. There was a client that I was working with. We were trying to motivate him to work on getting the business ready ultimately for transition, and have that in such a way that it did enhance the financial value of the business. And we couldn't get him to budge. He was just like, no, I got stuff to do. Don't bug me. I got a business to run. But when we actually started talking about, okay, well, let's talk about your family. Let's talk about what you and your beloved want to do, and how does that all fit together? He started talking about his son, Johnny, and they actually called him Johnny. He was not John. He went by Johnny. And they kept talking about, well, when Johnny comes home to work in the business. Well, they lived and operated their business in nowhere, Wisconsin. It was a really tiny town in Wisconsin, and Johnny was working in the big city, and he had his first job and was really enjoying it. And I'm like, what are you going to do to make it attractive for Johnny to come back? Because those things that you need to do to make your business attractive to Johnny to come back are very similar to what you need to do to make it attractive for a buyer at some point in time. Johnny is just another potential buyer, even if money never changes hands. And so the way that we create value in our business is to make sure that it's always ready to sell. It's always ready for somebody else to say, that looks like a really cool business I would love to take over. And that's how you build value. And so by tapping into what was important to him personally, we were able to unlock that grip on, I don't want to deal with this. But when he realized, oh, the chaos I love may be the exact thing that keeps Johnny in the city, then he was able to work on it.
That is such a great example too of, kind of embracing something that was really a roadblock for him, and then being able to bring it full circle. I just love that. And it's true, right? The more that we have our businesses ready to sell, the more fun they are to run, the more likely
Yeah.
people that we want to stay involved in the business will stay involved. And so it just makes sense to do now what you could be doing later. Why not just start running it the right way now instead of waiting until you're ready to pass it on or to exit?
Amen.
Yeah. So I think this is a really good piggyback to your story, because it's like his values almost got in the way, right? It almost, because he so badly wanted to pass this business on to his son and have his son back living close to him and, able to really have that family time. It almost got in the way of what he wanted. And so, I think I know the answer to this, but do you ever see owners let those emotional attachments, their personal values, get in the way of what they're
Never.
trying to do?
Never.
I know
Come
it's a loaded question, right? And maybe tell us a little bit about what that looks like and how business owners can kind of avoid putting themselves in that trap.
Oh, yes, I've seen it many, many times. As I was thinking about our conversation today, I remember another story. I refer to it as the story of the ghost of Joe, and thinking this was another family business. It was multi-generational. Long story short, Joe's dad had a family business that he sold out from under Joe and his brothers. And Joe never forgave his dad for it. He went off and built his own business and then brought his adult children into the business and was hoping for the third generation to come into the business. But he white knuckled leadership, even though he brought in a non-family member to run the business. He white knuckled a lot of different things and ultimately didn't find the right balance between family and business. And so it created a lot of friction amongst his kids. Well, the third generation were watching their aunts and uncles and grandparents bicker, and to the point where they're just like, we want nothing to do with this. And so it's almost like the ghost of Joe. He was white knuckling it so hard because he wanted a family legacy that he didn't realize that he was blowing up his family legacy. And so the whole concept of being true to your vision and your values and having strong communication systems across your owner group, your leadership group, your other stakeholders, your family members, if it's a family business, having those mechanisms to talk these things through and have shared goals really goes a very, very long way. It's a lifelong process, but that communication and building that shared vision is absolutely critical to keeping those emotions in check and having the support systems to say, you know what, there's another perspective. Maybe we need to think about it. My father's Oldsmobile is not the car that I want. I want a different car. How do we work together so that we can still maintain a legacy while we both get to drive a car?
That's such great advice and a great example. And so I want to ask you, as we kind of wrap up our value bite, what would be your closing advice that you would give to clients or just owners that can ultimately help them balance the emotions with their goals? What would be kind of the top takeaways that you would want someone to have?
Get help. Find a resource or resources that can help you maintain perspective, help you maintain balance, maybe facilitate some conversations amongst your family members, amongst your owners, amongst your leadership team. Ownership of a business is deadly lonely in so many different ways. And I also think we, as business owners, have this sense of responsibility, and we have to know the answer. It's up to us to know the answer. Well, for crying out loud, we don't know everything, as much as we like to delude ourselves and believe that we do. So surround yourself, whether it's a Vistage or other colleagues that you trust, build that circle, or reach out to advisors, and somebody who can facilitate helping you get over that hump or whatever you're wrestling with. It's really time well spent in resource. The resources will come back in tenfold if you invest in that and talk it through. Don't be alone. Don't have to be.
Well, thank you, Martha, for sharing your insights, your experiences. Those were two really impactful stories that you shared with us that I hope that people will take back and really think about as they're looking at their business and where they're going, and being very honest about what might be standing in their way. I know that you are one of those people that can help businesses to navigate these waters as they're trying to increase value and get ready for an eventual sale. So where can folks connect with you to learn more?
The best place to connect with me would be through the Family Business Consulting Group, and that website is www.thefbcg.com for Family Business Consulting Group. Or you can email me at sullivan@thefbcg.com, and I'd love to chat.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Martha. It was great to
Thank you.